Hi everyone, Brian here, and I thought I would just pop on for a very quick video because I've decided to follow the 31 Days of Tarot challenge. I've had such a warm welcome from everyone here on YouTube, and since my channel so far has focused very much on tarot, although I will go on to talk about other interests in the future, I thought it would be nice to take part in the challenge and consolidate some of what I've been saying about tarot and some of what I've been learning, and also just connect with so many of the great people who are putting together really interesting and fascinating videos on this topic. So thanks to Ethony for setting the challenge up, and I'm a bit behind schedule, so I'm actually going to rattle through the first 8 topics in this video if I can. And I'm also going to take a leaf out of Tarot Alchemist, Lisa's book. She's done some videos already and has said that she's going to try and keep her videos to below 15 minutes if she can. And so I think that's a good idea because there's a lot of material to get through. So I'll try to do the same. I'm not sure how successful I'm going to be, but I'll give it a shot. So I think the first thing, I've got my list here of things that I need to cover, and the first thing is do a reading looking at the energy and major lessons. So I'm actually going to use the Osho Zen Tarot deck for this, and this was actually the I think it was the second deck that I owned actually, and I bought this when I was staying at the Fintorn Foundation. I had a very happy experience there. So this is a very special deck to me. So yeah, so let's give it a go, and we'll see what comes out. Now I'm not quite sure whether this is about doing a reading for the year ahead for me or for all of us. So how about it's for me and you. So see what you make of this. Okay, and I think we'll just take the top card off the top. So that's Turning In, which is the 4 of Cups, I believe, in the traditional sense. So this certainly is very apt for me this year, because this is the year, as I develop and grow my tarot and YouTube presence, is the year that I've decided to, in a sense, come out about turning in. In other words, be more open and more vocal about the fact that I am interested in this kind of inner work, and I want to explore more of it in my professional career. So I'm a coach. One of the things that I do professionally is I coach people, a kind of life coaching practice, I suppose you would call it, although I coach people around a number of different things, including careers and fitness and all kinds of stuff. But I would like to do more inner work, and I've already used tarot a bit in my coaching practice with clients very successfully and very usefully, they tell me, and I'd like to do more of that. So Turning In is very apt for me because I think it just reflects a bit of where I'm at the moment in terms of my own thinking. So that is the reading. Top 5 tarot decks 2017, and these are decks that either were released in 2017 or that I bought. Well, I don't think I actually bought very many decks that were released last year, but I did buy a number of decks. So I'm going to bend down here and get the deck, so I will be back in a second. And I'm back again. I probably didn't even disappear from camera, so I don't know why I'm pretending that I have. So the first deck on my list is one that will be familiar to most of you, and that is the Wild Unknown. Very, very beautiful deck. One that I connected with as soon as I saw it, and one that I've had some very, very effective readings with. I just think these cards are gorgeous, and I think they speak very clearly. And the thing that I really liked is that in the edition that I got, which I think came out in 2016, probably the second, or would it be the third? Maybe the second edition. I'm not very up on all that kind of stuff. It comes with a little guidebook, and that opens up into a poster, and as luck would have it, the poster I got was the Chariot, and the Chariot is my soul card. And I speak about soul cards and how to calculate them, including my own kind of invented method for doing that in my previous video, so I'll link that below. So that's the Wild Unknown. I'm rambling already, so I don't think we're going to be able to stick to 15 minutes, but we'll try. So the next deck I got my hands on last year, which I'm very pleased about, is the original edition of, and I know that a number of people are seeking after this, the Mythic Tarot with the original artwork, which I think is out as an app now. But again, I love this deck. Not great card stock, a bit flimsy, but really, really nice artwork. Very thorough and interesting guidebook. I really wanted this year, or last year, to start focusing on decks that had a deep mythological foundation, and so that's one of the reasons that I sought this deck out, and so I'm very pleased to have been able to find that. And another deck that I found last year, again with the mythological connotations and connections, is one that I've shown before on this channel, and that of course is the Spiral Tarot, which I have trimmed and edged. Again, just a fantastic deck. I won't say very much about this because I've already done an unboxing and I've just shown you that card. If you watch my video on Spiral Tarot, I review the deck and show you a bit about, well, tell you a bit about what I think of it. So there's that. Another deck that I have acquired last year, and that I actually just edged last night, in fact, is the Tarot of the Chrome, which I've now edged in black. So very effectively, I might add. I think this again is just a terrific, very chatty deck in its own way. Like that one very much. And moving swiftly on, my final deck for 2017 is actually, it's not a deck that I particularly like as a deck, but I got the mini edition of it to carry around and just think it's so cute and so helpful, and that is the Hanson-Roberts Tarot deck, and it has its own particular charm, I think. So I know a lot of people don't like this deck. It has its fans and its detractors, but I think it's charming, and it has its own kind of look. And I'm just trying to not get too much glare. So yeah, and it's also in this size. It's really, really handy. So that completes my top 5 tarot decks. I think the next item is top 5 oracle decks. Well, as I said before in a previous video, I'm not actually very big on oracle decks. I don't have very many of them, so I can't really say very much here. I certainly don't have 5 to show you. What I have got and recently acquired was this deck, which is called Animal Spirits. This is the box, and the reason I got this was I liked the artwork. Those of you who are about my age and maybe a bit older, if you were at university in the kind of late 90s, maybe early 90s to late 90s, you almost certainly knew somebody who had a poster of the artwork of Susan Seddon-Boulay on their wall. You may have had one yourself. I certainly knew somebody who was very dear to me, who sadly is no longer with us, who had posters by that artist on her wall. And so whenever I see the artwork, I think of her. And this deck is utilising the artwork of that artist. Really nice paintings. The interpretation of the cards is on the back, so there's no book that accompanies the deck. So you know, some people might not like that. Doesn't really bother me. I just think the artwork is amazing. I think that's Bear. Yes, that's Bear. Yeah, a nice deck, I think. And all the same style of artwork, but a real variety of types of painting and colour and so on. So, and it's not just, there's a mixture of animals and humans in this deck. This is, you know, a deck I haven't done an awful lot of work with, but I like it. I like it. So there's that in terms of oracle cards, kind of oracle cards. Another one is, this maybe isn't so much an oracle card and more of a kind of Lenormand style deck, but it's Titania's fortune cards, which I'm not really sure why I ended up acquiring these, but I did. And although I haven't actually used them very much because I'm not into the fortune telling side of cards as much as I am the inner work, psychological exploration, etc. side of things. I do think these cards are kind of interesting and fun in their own way. Nice colours, very simple imagery, but that I think works well. And yeah, I just think there's something really quite nice about these cards that, well, they're one of the 3 decks that I own in this field, so I can't really complain about them. But one that I will say I absolutely adore is the Celtic Shamans pack by John Matthews, with art by Jessica Potter, who did the art for the Greenwood Tarot. And I just love her artwork, and I think that this deck is fantastic. And I have done some work with this deck, quite a lot of work with this deck actually, and just find it very, very deep and very stimulating of the intuition and contemplation and imagination. So this is a deck that I really value and have very much enjoyed working with this year. So those are my top Oracle decks. Moving swiftly on. Top 5 Tarot books 2017. Okay, so I don't think any of these were released in 2017, but I acquired them all then, and I'll quickly go through them. Need no introduction, Holistic Tarot, big, thick, comprehensive, extremely well written. I haven't read all of this. I've kind of dipped into it and taken bits out of it as I've needed to. I'll be going back to this again, but I've enjoyed what I've read very much. Tarot Masters, which is edited by Kim Arnold, who organises the UK Tarot Conference, and I'm hoping to get to the UK Tarot Conference this year. So if anyone else in the UK, or even outside of the UK, is intending to go, please do comment below and let me know, and perhaps we can be in touch and, well, meet in person at the Tarot Conference, which I think is in October this year. So I love this book because what it does is it takes each of the major arcana cards, and a tarot expert writes about one of the cards. So we have Alfred Douglas writing about the Hermit, we've got Jane Lyle writing about the Lovers, John Matthews writing about the Emperor, Mary Kay Greer about the Priestess, Rachel Pollack I think does the Wheel of Fortune. Just a really interesting book, a nice short essay, so you can dip into this book really, really quickly and just get so much from it. So this is a good one. A couple more. I'm trying to find somewhere on the floor here to put things because I'm beginning to just put piles of decks on top of books and everything, and I'm going to get in a bit of a muddle. So my next book is Tarot Path to Self-Development by Micheline Stewart. I like this one actually because it takes a slightly different approach to tarot, and I haven't read all of this, but I've dipped into it. It's very short, so it's not really a difficult book to read. What's interesting about this is it comes from a Gurdjieffian perspective on the tarot. Again, very kind of short essays on each of the different cards, and very readable. It also follows the sequence of the cards. It starts with the Fool, and then it goes to the World and works back through the major arcana, so it sees that as the kind of journey, which is an interesting way of looking at it. Another one which is interesting because it takes a more Kabbalistic approach, and it uses the builders of the Aditum Tarot, which I don't have a copy of, but which I've got a poster of somewhere, Living the Tarot by Amber Gianti. And again, haven't read all of it, but I've read bits of it, particularly about the cards that I've been doing some work with. And what I like about this book is it gives, as well as an analysis of each card, it gives suggestions for applying the card in your life and integrating the symbology of the card into your life. So it's a very practical approach, and it isn't just about interpreting cards, it's about using them actively. So that's a goodie. And one, I have to confess, I got this last year, and I read a little bit of it before I disappeared off for Christmas, and I read a bit more last night, but I can't say I've read very much of it at all. But already it's really interesting, and it's Tarot Celebrations by Geraldine Amaral and Nancy Brady Cunningham, and this takes a Jungian approach to reading the cards. So that's certainly something I'm very interested in and look forward to reading more about. So we're now up to, well, we're getting close to 15 minutes, so maybe 20. We'll stretch to 20. So cards that stalked you this year. Okay, well, definitely the card that stalked me this year was the Empress, and the video that I did a couple of videos ago about the Empress and how the Empress appeared to me in a dream, a very personal and poignant and pertinent dream, explains why the appearance of the Empress is really quite significant for me, and the fact that the Empress appeared is this year and has come up in lots of readings for me this year is quite significant. I don't think it's a coincidence that that's happened in the year that I made the decision to start this channel and to start talking more about tarot. So that is the card that has stopped me. The deck that I finally crossed off my wish list, and I probably won't be able to put my hand on it now, here it is, right in front of me, is the Sacred Rose Tarot. Excuse me, let me just adjust the lighting. I think we're beginning to dim a little bit. We need recharging. The Sacred Rose Tarot, I haven't even taken this out of the shrink wrap inside yet because it's been on my wish list for so long. I want to be absolutely sure that when I do sit down with this deck that I give it the time and the respect and the attention that it deserves. So I want to find some space and quiet. I want to sit down with a little white book and a cup of tea, and I want to really study this deck. So so that is waiting for my attention. Most worked deck, and why? That would be the Universal Waite, simply because that was the first Rider-Waite, the first version of Rider-Waite that I acquired quite a long time ago, but I've been using it quite a lot lately. Certainly last year it was the deck that I used most. I have got other editions of the Rider-Waite. In fact, I've just received the Pamela Coleman Smith Low Scarabeo version. I'll probably do a video on that quite soon, and I've also got the AGM. Let me just see if I can find it. Yes, I got the English edition of the Tarot of A.E. Waite by AGM Urania, the Premier edition, which I'm very excited about. Ooh, it's the one with the kind of crickle back and the English words. But I've used Universal Waite mainly because just I found it very accessible and I enjoyed working with Rider-Waite, and I've been using the Rider-Waite more and more actually. Although my first deck, Tarot of the Old Path, was based on Rider-Waite, I just found that working with the Rider-Waite itself was worth doing. Top 5 decks on my wish list. Okay, so that would be the CBD version of the Marseille Tarot, which I want to get along with the book by Yoav Ben Dov, simply because I do want to spend some time looking into the Marseille Tarot. It's not something that I've spent a lot of time studying so far, so I want to do that. Pagan Other Worlds, because I just love the artwork on that, and also because I want to work with more pip decks, and I think that that is mainly a pip deck, although it has some illustrations on the pips. Just because I want to get more used to addressing the number and suit meanings of the cards rather than responding to the stimulus of pictures. But Pagan Other World just looks gorgeous as well, so why wouldn't I want that? Another one that I have just added to my wish list actually is the Aura Soma Tarot, because I saw that on Tarot Alchemist's channel. And I'll be honest and say that I don't know enough yet to know about whether it's going to stay on my wish list, but I'm actually becoming more interested in any tarot deck that adds something to the tarot structure, that adds some thinking of its own, rather than simply interpreting the images of tarot or giving a different version of an old system, if you know what I mean. And I think that that does, because it adds additional cards in, it has a whole extra set of major arcana cards. It also includes cards for archangels and so on. I don't necessarily know if I would want to work with that side of things, and I think the Ascended Masters are also illustrated in there. That's not something, it's a bit new agey probably for my tastes, no disrespect to anyone who is into that kind of stuff, but it's not usually what I respond to. But something about that deck when I saw it on Lisa's channel just triggered my interest, so I am going to look into that. One that is on its way to me now as we speak is the Tarot of Transformation, and I want that one because it will be taking a psychoanalytic approach to tarot, and that's something I'm very interested in. And finally, oh, there's kind of two that I want to mention. So I'll mention one that has been on my list for a long time and one that's just been added on. The one that's just been added on is the Ellis Tarot. and I'm looking into getting a copy of that. I just think the artwork on that is charming and very striking. And the other one is the Greenwood Tarot. That has been on my list forever. I know it's very hard to track down. I know that the images are available online. But if I did happen to come across a copy of that deck at a reasonable price, then I would seriously consider getting it. So, I think with probably about a minute or two short of 20 minutes to spare, we'll close. And I think I've done all the questions for 128 of 31 days of tarot. So I'll be back very soon. And I don't know how many questions I'll cover in my next video. Hopefully I won't leave it so long that I have to cover them all. But whatever you're doing for the rest of the day, have a good one. And I'll see you very soon.